All right. Let's see. Okay. And we are, excuse me, we are streaming. Hello, everybody. Richard here from Calvinwazoo, and we're going to do another brunch bunch and a big bunch because, we're been entering these years where, I don't have a lot of material, but even though with the years that I've selected for this episode of 2005 through 2009, I actually do have quite a few vinyl, to show. And, but, if it came down to doing just 1 year, I would have had, on some years, I would have only had one or two records to show. But I do have something for every year. And hey, Jason, good to see you. And we will also be, let's see here. I did pull some CDs as well, but I don't think I'm going to show. There's one CD I'm going to show simply because of the uniqueness of the release and the fact that that's the only format that it's available on. But I've got plenty of vinyl, and we'll get started here shortly. We are freezing bitter cold here in Chicago this Sunday. It's beautiful and sunny outside, but it's only 18 degrees. And oh wow, okay, well, so be selective, because actually the other thing I want to kind of do today is limit the length of the stream. I think I really want to cut it off after like right around 2 hours. I don't want it to go too long. That's a long stretch for people who want to have it on live, and even for people who to watch it later. Even if you break it, you watch it in parts. I mean, that's still a lot, and I do get plenty of streams and people coming to these and watching them later after I publish them, and I certainly appreciate that. Of course, you can always fast forward through everything. Because I barely have, when I'm selecting a movie that I want to watch, and I'm going through my DVDs, or I'm going through my subscriptions, my streaming subscriptions, and looking for movies to watch. When the film gets up to around 2 hours or longer, I've got to really think about, okay, what's this two hour chunk of time that I'm going to devote to paying attention to this. So yeah, we can. I'll put the. I see Jorgen's there. Jason is going to be coming in later, and but I'll put the link out for those who want to join the stream today and talk about the years. Let's see. I'm going to. There we go. We're going to show this banner now, and for the years of 2005 through 2009, which even though I had to, bring in that 5 year chunk, it's pretty good. The material that I have from there. I mean, there was a lot better recordings that were coming out. I mean, there was still plenty of Blech that was being released, but there were some new artists that were making their imprint on the music scene, and Other artists who had earlier starts, who were really starting to hit their stride during the latter half of the first decade of the 2000s. So, pretty good music all around. And uh, and also, I'm finding that Wikipedia is getting a little better at identifying the releases, from that time. So, hello, Jorgen.
Good evening. Good evening.
How how are things up in the almost the Lapland?
It is very snowy. It has been extremely cold for a couple of days, but today is milder and very much better temperature. It's going good. It's winter. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, well, right, yeah, and then our the solstice is going to be coming up soon, and the shortest day, and so it'll be right now. It's already for Chicago because we're on the front end of the central time zone, so it's dark at like 5 o'clock, or even
Lucky you are. Here I get surprised every time I see the sun set down at 3 o'clock.
yeah, it's like twilight at 3 o'clock here. The sun's not quite setting. I'm not a far north latitude as you all are. Chicago is roughly the same latitude as I think uh, Paris or even southern France. I looked one time, so it's a little bit further south. But man, it is just they forecast that there was going to be Arctic air coming down and into the mainland area of the United States, and whoosh, yes, it's just 18 degrees is just freaking cold. I would rush. I would much rather have snow than just fierce cold.
We had snow, pretty much snow also. But now it was a while since we had a real snowy weather. Knock on wood.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna be going on with the snowpack this year. So I hope it'll help out with that it won't melt so fast out west because they've had so many huge wildfires in the mountains out west, and what can happen is that when the snow comes, it melts right away because there's no ground cover to prevent the sunlight from just going straight to the snow and melting it right away, and that's not good.
Well, I can say safely anyway that here we will have a white Christmas. It's pretty safe to say right now, 1 week before that.
Okay, cool. I mean, geez, I'm not sure I can remember the last one here in Chicago. I mean, we get some snow sometimes in December, but it doesn't stick. It snowed yesterday, and it's pretty much all gone. And as usually, our first big winter storm is going to come in January, and then we get hit with a big wallop. Now, Michigan on the other side of the lake gets the lake effect snow because that's the way the wind blows. It's blowing mostly from west to east, and so it goes over the open water of the lake, and then they get that lake effect snow when that warm, moist air hits the cold, frozen shore of Michigan, and then it just dumps the snow. We don't get that much here in Chicago, lake effect, because the wind seldom blows that way.
Interesting when you have your giant storms over there in USA, and it's going to ship over the Atlantic Ocean, and we got in the news they say the American storm, the storm, this Margaret comes. Oh, watch out! Here it comes to Sweden right now. And then we translate the name over to something stupid Swedish like Ingemar or Janne, and then it's been watered down extremely from the travel over the Atlantic Ocean and become very, very much milder. But still, we get it's storm. It's really storm.
Yes. In fact, what I'm going to share this link to this global wind map. I have it focused in on the New Brunswick area of Canada right now, but you can move this map around, and what it does is it shows the wind circulation and directions and what do you call it? Let me see if this works, if I can share a link. I don't know if that's clickable, but you can copy and paste it or whatever. And it's a fascinating map. I especially will call it up whenever I know that there's a typhoon in the Pacific or a hurricane in the Atlantic. But yeah, sometimes I see the circulation of air in the North Atlantic off Iceland and toward Britain and Scandinavia. And there are these, I mean, they're like hurricanes. They're just gigantic cyclonic wind formations going over the North Sea.
It's pretty interesting also to see that we have the same problem within Sweden, because here in North we're much more, of course, used to snow and so on. When we see the news from Stockholm, the Stockholm people in our capital goes, oh, it's terrific, terrible. We had the worst snow in history. And you take a look at little powder on the streets. They always have a little snow when you have people from Stockholm saying that they have the worst weather in history. And come on, it's winter. It's pretty normal that it's snow at winter time. Get damn used to it for once.
Yeah, here in the U.S., at least in the eastern U.S., once you get south of the Ohio River, then, you're in the South. And so, yeah, people down there do not know how to deal with snow. It just, total freak out. If it's like a quarter inch of snow, it like paralyzes, whole cities. And then you get up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where, by this time of year, they've already had 100 inches of snow. They know how to deal with it. Same thing out in the West. I guess you could say south of the Missouri River. Well, actually, you'd have to get all the way down to Oklahoma and Texas out there before people will panic with that. A little bit of freezing rain, and oh my God, Dallas, Fort Worth, a couple million people are paralyzed. And then they go to the Piggly Wiggly and they buy everything in sight because they think they're going to be, it's Armageddon and they're going to be trapped in their homes. And, so another toilet paper run. It's pretty funny what people will do.
Well, I said it before and I say it again. I'd rather have it white and a little colder than I have the slush and the gray.
Yeah.
White and cold, at least it is a little lighter outside.
Right. And for unless you live in Antarctica, it can be too cold to snow.
You can get dressed.
Yes.
Dress right, and you can go outside.
That's right. So yes, I feel sorry for the people who live on the equator because or at low elevations, because we can put on more clothes to deal with the cold, but with the heat, there's only so much you can take off before you might be causing a scandal. So how did you do in terms of finding records for these years? Did you do all right?
Honest, when it comes to I said before that 2005 to 2009 are years when I usually call those years the years that God forgot, because it's totally uninteresting year for me. I stop almost listening to new music if it wasn't those well-known names and so on. And I thought that I didn't have anything, but I found a whole lot more than I thought I would have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It will be on the side. It will be a little more problem when it comes to 2010 and forward. But
Yeah, I haven't looked through that list yet, and I'm going to decide. Am I going to do 2010 to 2014 like I did with these other years, or is that decade so lean that I'm just going to do 2010 and beyond?
my suggestion is that you do 2010 to 2019.
Yeah.
Or else I will be having I have a much more smaller stack of records, but I can still participate. But if you do 2010 to 14, it will be most likely too small for me to
Yeah.
participate. So
I'll
my
take a look
suggestion is
at
10
that.
years.
And then I'm going to start thinking about other topics after we get through and caught up with everything. I'm starting to think of, different topic ideas, which I'll post a poll to see what people are thinking about. But, who knows, maybe an episode that just talks about live recordings or
What year did you start?
See, I deleted a lot of those early ones. I think it was late 70s. I think it might have been 76 or 77 or maybe 78 was the first ones. Currently, the episodes that are still available, let me go back and see here. My earliest available episode looks like it is 1987. So, well, you see, this is episode this is episode 28. So we can just go back 20, except for these two episodes, which are 5-year chunks. So if you go back one more, so that's 27. So 26 years before the year 2000. So yeah, that's 76, right? No, 74.
Well, let's just say it's not hard to find new subtopics. It's very easy to find subjects.
Oh yeah. And yeah, even because there's a few bands where I have almost the entire discography, and I know other people do, or have some records, and it'd be something to talk. But anyway, we'll get to that. So I see here the east coast of England is much windier and colder than the west. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, see, the west is closer to the Atlantic, but then the east is right next to the North Sea, and the North Sea can be one hell of a bitch when it comes to creating weather. So
yeah, Atlantic Ocean is way warmer.
Yeah, that's true. Because now that I think about it, because that Gulf Stream goes right, the south of Iceland, and then heads over. So yeah, I could see.
Well, that depends on if you are east north or east south. East south, you most likely is closer to Atlantic Ocean, but east north, of course, like north in Sweden, it's closer to the Arctica.
Right. Well, we can get started here, and I know that Jason will be joining us in a little bit. He's probably working on opening his store and all that kind of stuff. And I even kind of wrote things down so I could keep track of because I noticed with last time I didn't always mention the year something was released. I just mentioned it, it was during that year or whatever. But anyway.
I can also say that I don't have any CD singles this time, as CD singles were more or less a problem to find after 2005. And some artists have released more than one album during these years. So I will take, if there is a great artist, I will take more than one CD with the same artist.
I have one artist that I'm going to do that with. In fact, that I'm starting with, because this artist had releases in 2005, 2008, and 2009. And so I'm just, that's the only one where I'm going to do multiple ones, because every other one is just a single release for that year. So yeah, what do you got to start us off with?
I think it's only one way to start, naturally.
Okay. At the beginning. It's a very fine place to start.
At this time, I haven't sorted them out in 2005, 2006, 2007. I just take them randomly. And since it is that kind of season, I picked a Christmas CD.
Ah, okay.
A Christmas CD from 2008 called Christmas by Al Jarreau.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that. I like to collect Christmas music, and I'm gonna have to try and find that one.
This is Christmas, maybe a little odder. Is more of a very much of the more funky, the smooth, funky side as Al Jarreau is known for. His voice is older and it hasn't maybe aged that well, but it still gives a whole lot of Christmas feeling, but also a lot of cozy feeling. So if you want something to cozy to and get a little cozy grooving at Christmas, this is it. And he makes nice versions of the most famous songs. He makes White Christmas and have my favorite, the Christmas song, Christmas chestnuts roasting on an open fire is a really great one. And he also even makes those religious Hark the Herald Angels Sing in his own words and way. So this is a really, really great modern Christmas album.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look for that one. So, because I have, in fact, the Gunkles episode that is posted today. We spent a lot of time talking about Christmas music, and most of my Christmas collection, holiday collection, is on CD. I don't have very much on vinyl, but that's gradually growing. Because that's the kind of music it's nice to have it on CD because then I can put it in my CD changer and just play a bunch and not just have it on in the background while other things are going on. So
it has one thing that I think maybe it didn't do well. And normally he's known for doing his jamming with his when it's
right. It's like scat.
Yeah. And he tries to do it in his older age without his guitar, and it doesn't work that much. Maybe it's missing something.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's Al Jarreau, you can forgive him.
Yes. All right. Now the first artist, as I was saying before, is someone that I have several releases to show because of the several releases that were coming out. But this is an artist that I was told about probably about the time, this would have been around 2005, 2006 is when I first heard about this artist from a bartender. There was this restaurant and bar that I would often go to after I got out of work because I could walk from work, and this was in Holland, Michigan. And I would have dinner there also. And the bartender was, we would talk about music quite a bit. And he told me about this particular artist. This is Anthony and the Johnsons. And this is the album You Are My Sister. This was released in 2005. Boy George appears with Anthony on here. Secretly Canadian is the label. Anthony is a transgendered singer who now goes by the name of Ahoni, I think is what it is. She made a lot of appearances, and that's for a while she preferred the pronoun they, but she has fully transitioned, and so now she goes by she. But she made a lot of appearances on David Letterman during these years, and just really distinctive voice and amazing songwriting. This one here, I Am a Bird Now, was released in 2000. 4 on CD. The vinyl release was on 2000 in 2005. Really great. I was trying to remember now. The model on the front here is a fairly famous model, and I cannot remember the model's name. But yeah, this is the yeah. Anthony's voice is kind of a very unique chanteuse kind of jazz style of singing. And she's a piano player as well. Here's this other artist, or excuse me, this is from the Another World, which was released in 2008. So this one's on some white vinyl. This is a very famous Japanese mime artist. Again, I can't remember who it is that was on the cover. I should have looked all that up, but The Crying Light is another, just in Another World, are both really amazing albums, and the same Japanese performance artist as on the cover of The Crying Light, which was 2009. So yeah, Anthony and the Johnsons, just really a musical artist that is very, it's just unique and difficult to categorize in terms of what they play, but it's jazz vocals with piano that's on the avant-garde side, and very emotive, very, very expressive singing, just really amazing and quite beautiful voice. So, you can find, and yeah, it's very, very unique voice. And you can find a lot of videos of her on YouTube, including when she performed on David Letterman.
A couple of years ago, I got a bunch of CDs for free by a friend, and that she has gotten from a friend of hers. And one of them was, if I'm don't recall wrong, by that Anthony and the Johnsons. And I listened to it, give some quick peeks, but it was a little too avant-garde for my taste, so it wasn't my thing. But I know of them anyway.
Yeah, and yeah, she is now, her new releases. She's identifying as Ahoni. That's the name that she goes by now. Now that she's fully transitioned.
I didn't know they were transgender because I knew nothing about the band.
Yeah.
I never heard of it before.
She used to, she used to avoid actually even talking about the subject. However, more recently, she realized the importance of her voice in terms of social justice, what was going on, particularly in the United States and elsewhere. And so when she fully transitioned, that's where she fully embraced publicly, not just her identity, but was more willing to talk about it. But yes, very, very, it's a very beautiful but unique, and like you said, it's a very avant-garde style that is not going to be in everybody's wheelhouse. But yeah, just really neat stuff. Neat, what a word. No, it's neat.
It's unique that I know a name that you show, because normally I don't know anything about half of the stuff you show.
Yeah. Well, what have you got up next then, there, Jorgen?
I got an album that was very, very waited for. I didn't know about it until years afterwards, but I waited very long for a new album from this band. They disbanded back in 1994 and had some arguments over the name and so on. But here in 2006, they managed to pull themselves together, the original setting, and they came out with a brand new album finally after 12 years. Retroglide by Level 42. And Level 42 in 2006 is more jazz funky. This album is maybe a little close to Chicago's earlier days in some parts.
Okay.
More blues, jazz, rockier than ever. But I like this. I can't, of course, compare to the 80s stuff because I'm so much in love with the music that they did back then. But it still is worth checking up on, and it's really very interesting. And unfortunately, this is with the exception from live stuff, this is the last thing they have done so far. But it was very nice hearing Level 42 in the modern age, and it was a really, really great album. Could have been a whole lot worse, and it's really, really good.
Huh, all right. Yeah. I am unfamiliar with them. So
I showed them numerous times in the when we were in the 80s.
yeah, well that was 20 years ago, so I don't remember.
Okay. Then I didn't have the internet back in the 80s, but back in the 90s. Okay.
All right. Well, this next one here, this is another one that I learned about, group that I learned about the same time as Anthony and the Johnsons, and it was from a coworker that was telling me about them, and that was the Decemberists, and this is their 2005 release, Picaresque, and I just love this record. It's all the songs are they have it's a fairly big band, and they have a kind of a folky style that's a little mix of maybe bluegrass and maybe a little Irish folk and sea shanties, all kind of mixed into their style. They played a couple times here in Chicago, and unfortunately, I didn't go see them. But there's great stories in the songs. One of my favorite songs include "Eli the Barrow Boy," a very haunting, sad song of a mixed race love affair that ends tragically. Then there is, let's see, On the Bus Mall. I love On the Bus Mall. It's such a beautiful story of these two runaway boys and living, making their money doing tricks, working the restrooms and things like that. And it's just a really, touching story, as well as they, talk about, in the case of one of the boys, who I believe is sort of a trans person, but the abuse that they had to endure at home, which, led to them running away. 16 Military Wives. I think that was a reasonable hit at the time. And probably the Mariner's Revenge song. What a story that whole song is. If you got to look it up on YouTube and listen to it. The Mariner's Revenge song. Talk about just a great sea shanty. It's wonderful stuff. They also, during this decade, they had another one called The Crane Wife, which I have on CD, but I won't bring that out. But this is a wonderful, wonderful album. It sounds really good too. And so, yeah, if you're unfamiliar with the Decemberists, and you like folk, kind of a folky style of music, that could even, I would even say, a little reminiscence of groups like the Pentangle, on that kind of thing. Just really good. And the primary singer, I forget his name. Really good voice, really good storytelling. So yeah, Decemberists are something I really enjoy. What is this? Who
I never
famously
heard of them.
drove? Who famously drove a milk van
Mark
in
King, the
London?
singer. Mark King, the singer and bass player in Level 42.
Oh, okay.
The band I showed previously.
And so not heard of them. Which one are you talking about? The Level 42 or the
The
Decemberists?
Decemberists you mentioned. No.
Well, yeah, you should check them out then. They have plenty of videos out there. And the bus mall, there's a video of the bus mall that I don't like the way they rewrote it, because they straightened it up. They took the gay element out of it. And to me, that just I don't know why they did that. It was a live video, so I don't know what the hell was going on, but it's nonetheless still a wonderful song. So what do you have then, Jorgen?
Now I'm taking the stuff that should be pretty obvious that I would pick. Two albums that came out different years. One 2000 and my memory slips, but the 2005 and one 2009 by Depeche Mode, of course.
Ah, yes.
And first we have Playing the Angel, which is an album that I got in Christmas present, and it is a really great Depeche Mode album that borrows styles from different kind of previous Depeche Mode albums. We have John the Elevator, that sounds like a relative to Personal Jesus, maybe. And we have a lot of songs also that sound like it would be from Violator and so on. A really great Depeche Mode album. And then we have 2009 Sounds of the Universe, which also, like all Depeche Mode's album, is great, but I consider this better because this is great, of course, produced, it's great performed, it's a great Depeche Mode album, but it doesn't have the strongest songs, the strongest melodies as the previous Depeche Mode albums, with one exception, the single Wrong. But otherwise, it is an album that melody-wise is a little weaker, but still a great Depeche Mode album when it comes to the total. So two Depeche Mode albums from these years, and more will come.
So what's Depeche Mode really started in like the 80s.
First album came 1981.
Yeah. So what era do you find yourself enjoying the most of Depeche Mode?
I would like to say all of them, but if I have to pick a choice, I pick my favorite Depeche Mode album is Violator from 1990s. I would say late 80s and so, but
Okay.
I like all of them. I like.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Songs of Faith and Devotion and The Darkness, the story behind it. I like Ultra and The Comeback, and I like the early Blip Blopping with Vince Clarke. I like them all. So it's hard to name one, but if I had to make one, the Violator is my absolute favorite one.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I only have I think 2 or 3 Depeche Mode releases, and I'm gradually picking up more. But that's kind of the era I'm starting off with, is late 80s and into the early 90s. in going that
And I
route.
can proudly say that I have every studio album they have made until next year anyway, because then they come up with a new one.
Yeah, right, okay. Um, so this is a band that I came backwards. I mean, this particular release, uh, I did not. It was not my first record from this group, and I really never heard of them. I mean, the first record I bought by them is actually going to be, oh shoot, I can't remember when it was released. I think it was after this one, so it might be, but in the next decade. And the group is Spoon, and the album is Gimme Fiction, which is probably in their catalog their most well liked release, I think. It is a really solid record. The first album that I got of theirs, however, is Transference, which is a very interesting record. And I just recently saw a video about that where, because Transference tends to be the least liked of Spoon, and some people actually say skip it, don't even bother with it, because everything else is so much better. And I always kind of like Transference for some reason, but I just watched a video recently where someone was kind of going into it and talking about the record and how it came about. And the band actually intentionally set out to create something that was going to not annoy, but jar, push their fans. And they succeeded for sure, because when you listen to them play the songs from Transference live, they sound like very polished and finished pop songs. They're really good. But on the recording, it's kind of like they intentionally mess things up with like instrument placement, in terms of the, what do you call it? The sonic room or whatever. But this one, I think this might have come out after Transference, and it is much more straightforward, and the songs are really good. They're very fully developed, and just that Spoon sound. So I was very late to learn about them, and when I came back I was in Pittsburgh where I found the Transference record, and I was like really digging them. Even that one, the record that nobody likes. And then I get back to Chicago, and then I find out, oh crap, they played last week, at an outdoor venue here in Chicago, and they do make trips now and then. They don't play as big a venue anymore, it seems like, because they played the Riviera for their new record, their new release last year. And
Jason wants a link.
Pardon me?
Jason wants a link.
Oh yeah, I saw him there, but
before
I was busy.
Continue.
Yeah. So they used to play much larger venues, I think, at least here in Chicago, and because the Riviera is pretty small, and but yeah, I didn't realize, again, this is a band that goes back to the 90s, to like the mid 90s, and I didn't learn about them until 2019. Yeah, in Pittsburgh. That was when I saw the cover to the album Transference, and I thought, it's one of those
I never
records.
heard of them.
It's indie rock, very, and the singer has a very kind of a raspy tenor voice, and they're from Texas, but I think from Austin. I think from the Austin area. Yeah, check them out. It's very very indie pop. I'm trying to think of who else, that they might kind of resemble, but I can't think of anything right now. So
Let's listen and judge for yourself who they sound like.
yeah, yeah. Um, and like I said, that album Transference, that was the first one I ever heard. And the thing with it is, I found out that that's like their least liked record of their entire catalog by people. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm here.
So,
I went through a whole bunch of records. I grabbed, I think, what I got, so I'm ready.
all right, cool. Well, we've already shown just a few,
I
and
saw, yeah.
yeah. So, Jorgen, we're up to you now.
I'm going to show something that I wanted to show for a long time, but I don't have records with this genre in those modern years, and that is jazz records. But now finally I have jazz records. So I have two. I have first a live album that was released back in 2009, and it is Scott Hamilton, Scandinavian Five. Scott Hamilton, well-known saxophone player, and it's live at Nefertiti, that was a jazz club in Gothenburg in Sweden, at the west coast in Sweden. And this is a special edition with both a CD and a DVD with live takes from Nefertiti. And this is a really, really great release because not only does it contain Scott Hamilton, it also contains Hammond organ, and I'm a huge fan of Hammond organ jazz. So this is a really, really amazing live and album with a whole lot of swing and a whole lot of amazing playing. One of the best jazz live albums in recent years. And
So where's he from?
Scott Hamilton is American.
Okay.
And I have this one.
Oh, okay.
This is a compilation, and it is a compilation called Jazz and 90s. And this is as interesting as a release from 2006, where more modern artists that I never heard of though does their own jazz versions of 90s hits.
Okay, yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
We have a jazz version of Jamiroquai Space Cowboy, Radiohead's Creep, Crystal Waters' Gypsy Woman, No Doubt Don't Speak, Oasis Wonderwall, Depeche Mode's Personal Jesus, that is from 89, but okay. In Excess, Suicide Blonde, a jazz version of Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun, Guns N' Roses' November Rain, Lenny Kravitz' It Ain't Over Till It's Over, Everything But the Girl Missing, and a jazz version of Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. And they do it really great. And some of the versions, those that I normally don't like Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, I think is better than the original. So, but it is really interesting to hear how they have arranged those classic 90s hits into something new and very, very unknown for this genre, but unknown for the genre, but it's really, really amazing arranged.
So did they also
do... kind of serious because there's also jazz 80s and so on, but I managed to have this one only for now.
So did they do vocals, or is this all instrumental?
Both, but it's both. But Wonderwall is instrumental, but like Personal Jesus had Karen Sosa on vocals, so both.
Okay, all right. So that sounds like a very interesting compilation. And because really, when you think about jazz as a genre, it really wasn't a whole lot going on. Starting with about the 90s. I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot going on. So
It depends on the 90s. Jazz made a whole lot of collaboration with hip hop, so it sounded like a lot of hip hop in jazz, and I am very much allergic to that. But I'm old fashioned when it comes to jazz. I want the old fashioned style. But it's not the first time that jazz and 90s meet. I know that both
yeah,
Paul Anka and Pat Boone have both made their albums where they do big band versions with vocals of 90s hits. I've heard Paul Anka's big band version of "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and it's funny and very, very great.
have you
To say the
ever
least.
listened to Brandon Marcellus?
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yes.
Okay,
He does
yeah, that's a
all the classics. He does bebop and all that.
Yeah, but he also do. He has a wide range. He do classical swing. He do bebop, but he also do more modern ones. So he's
right.
depends on what
Yeah.
he does.
He's definitely
Yeah.
a modern jazz artist that I really like. So, and
But
I
he
guess
seems like a very nice and down to earth person.
well, the whole Marcellus family is such an amazing musical family. So, yeah, Brandon. I
Yeah.
said Brandon, and it's Branford Marcellus. You're right. Thank you.
Which guy was on the Tonight Show? Was it Branford? Was he the Tonight Show guy?
Who did led the band for a while?
He also
Yeah,
had
with
Ben
Jay
from
Leno, or was it?
Jay Leno was not one of the
That
bad.
was
It's
Branford. I think it was
Winton,
Branford.
or was it Winton Marcellus? I don't know.
I don't think it was Winton, but was it the trumpet player? Because
Yeah,
Winton's the trumpet player.
Jay Leno was Kevin something, but
Kevin
not,
Eubanks. Oh, okay.
Kevin Eubanks.
But there was a guy. I thought there was a Marcellus for a little while
No, there
on the
was.
Tonight
There
Show.
was for a little while, and maybe it was Winton, but
I don't know.
but for some reason I thought it was Branford, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I didn't. I don't stay up late anymore. Last time I stayed up late for late shows was when Craig Ferguson was doing his, because I just thought that show was just fucking.
He was
awesome.
pretty cool.
Let's just say talk shows isn't the hippest thing anymore that it was back to 20.
Oh no, that's true. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the '80s and '90s, it was a little bit more avant-garde. Now it's very ho hum. They probably need a lot more diversity. I mean, that's an understatement in the late show hosts.
Yeah.
But it's all white guys. But
it's a very self-selecting group.
yeah,
When
Same
people
here in Sweden. We had a whole lot of talk shows back in the 90s and 00s, and then all of a sudden there are extremely few of them in the smaller commercial channels. So
yeah. This is the new talk show right here, YouTube.
That's right. It is. And sometimes it's funny. And so, Jason, so what do you got?
All right, I've got a lot of genres as usual. I'm going to kick off with a couple of experimental things, even though Stunty's not here, but maybe to kind of like counterbalance some Stunty later. Starting off with a 10-inch. We haven't really shown many 10 inches on this video stream yet, right? This is a really interesting one I picked up in the Netherlands at an art space. It's very art driven. It's called Shotgun Architecture by Justin Bennett. And I looked this guy up on Discogs. He does sculptural work. He does visual art. He does audio. And the whole thing with this Shotgun Architecture, it's sort of taking, if my recollection is accurate, it's taking like a sound of a gunshot and then just splicing it up and doing this sort of experimental sound work with this audio, basically. Plays on 45 RPM.
Musique concrète.
Yeah, so Musique concrète for sure. It's 2008 release on Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia, I think, is the name of the label, which I think is also a publishing, like visual art label. So cool 10-inch pickup. Never seen it anywhere else. Paid a whole €8 for it, so not bad. And one other one I'll show, which is in the experimental kind of, this is more IDM maybe. This is Tim Hecker and Aiden Baker. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of either of those artists before.
No.
So Tim Hecker, I actually went to school with. I did my master's program in public policy, and he was in the program. He kind of launched during those early 2000s years. He launched into this whole kind of like drone and ambient and IDM experimental techno. We DJ'd together once. But yeah, Tim Hecker has a lot of stuff. He's had stuff at the gallery here. This one, he's doing a collabo with Aiden Baker. You look this guy up on Discogs. He has just too much music. Actually, people are complaining in the comments. Like, he has like 9 pages of releases. He's classically trained guitarist, a little bit of jazz for you, Jorgen. But this record itself is very ambient noise and drone. And it was a 2008, I think, release. These CDs by Tim Hecker go for quite a bit if you get the original pressings. So not something I play often. It's kind of on the shelf, but a couple of experimental there for you guys.
Okay.
And I guess France was beat at the World Cup, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so maybe that's why Stunty didn't join us. And if he does join us, we're going to get an angry.
I think he said last week that he didn't know if he was going to participate or not.
He's going to be in misery today, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
It's breaking news, folks. Breaking news.
Yeah. I don't follow sports and soccer all that much these days, but it was a long time since Argentina was good in football, so it's great to see them come back.
Yeah.
Do they still have Messi or whatever? This guy from the 70s or something?
No.
I don't
know. Okay. Not.
Some of these football teams, they come out every 4 years, World Cup, and it's like, holy shit, that guy was from 20 years ago. He's still playing.
Let's just say it's just as big it's just as big chance that he shows up now in his age, and as it is as Maradona shows up.
And Maradona, yeah, that's the extent of my football knowledge. Not very good. So.
Maradona is dead, so.
Okay, well, there you go.
Oh, hey Zeb. Well, better latent than never. So good to see you. We haven't shown all that much, although I'm disappointed that you weren't here when I started the show off talking about Anthony and the Johnsons, and so I don't know if you know anything about them at all. So what I'm going to do here is this next one. I just have one record by this artist. And this was released in 2005, and this is Jack Johnson, In Between Dreams. I just really like the song. It's very kind of, pop folk or guitar singer songwriter kind of things. But there were a couple songs that I do really, really like on here. I know the songs. I can hear them in my head. I haven't listened to this in a long time, but I cannot figure out which title is which. But anyway, this Jack Johnson record, I do really like it. But I have never listened to anything else by him. It's one of those situations where I have a record by an artist. I'm perfectly satisfied with it, and not necessarily all that interested in chasing after anything else that they've done. But I suppose if I heard somebody else's copy of something that he did, then, and I like it, then I might go ahead and check it out. So, well, the new Zappa box. What's the new Zappa box? Because I did order the new remastered, re-engineered color vinyl for Waka Jawaka and the Grand Wazoo. I did order that, and that should be arriving in the mail fairly soon. But is there another box that the Waka Wazoo box? Well, yeah, that's the is that the CD? Because I just bought the vinyl. I didn't bother with getting the CD sets. I haven't really looked at what's going on with that, but I do have the CD box with tons of extras. I don't know. I am on a what do you say?
I'm fasting.
Yes, I'm on a record fast because I've been spending way too much on. So a lot of the stuff that I am getting and coming in the mail is stuff that I've pre-ordered, and so I'm just waiting for it. So I am going to be getting some new records. Besides the Waka Jawaka and Grand Wazoo, I have another pre-order that I'm waiting for. I just got a new release of the seat belts with the soundtrack to the anime series Cowboy Bebop. So they've issued another collection of that. But hey, no problem,
Yeah, we're not in the 2000s now. What's going on here?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's all right. So where we at? Okay, Jorgen. What have you got
I
for
think
us?
I'm taking
Jorgen.
2 this time. Different
Right.
artist though, to speed it up a bit. First, I'm taking an album by a person I have just said very bad things about her more modern stuff, rightfully so,
Seb.
because her best was came out in 1998, previous this one. But this was exception because Madonna's Confessions on a Dance Floor is by far her best album from this decade or a century, this century, the 2000th century. And it is very danceable, produced by her and Stuart Price, and contains the whole "Hang Up" is the biggest hit from this one, where she borrowed from "Gimme Gimme Gimme" by ABBA, and this is a really great Madonna album, and it was really fresh to hear after 3 albums with Merve. Torturing us, at least me. So this is a really great Madonna album, and as I said, the last time she was, in my opinion, the best.
That
Good for
record
you.
saved my life.
Saved your life. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Oh my God.
And I have also now. I'm going to confess right now. I don't own one single album by Bob Dylan. I own a DVD box set that I got for free from that friend I talked about earlier, but I don't own an album by him. But I own an album with his songs, and this one, Brian Ferry, Dylan-esque. I'm no fan of Bob Dylan, as you have figured out, but I think this is really great because Brian Ferry has taken Bob Dylan songs and made them into his own, with the typical Brian Ferry smooth style, a little more acoustic than it was before, though, but very nice Dylan versions. In some opinions, in some also, as I'm no huge Bob Dylan fan, I think some of them are better than the original, but a really great album with Dylan stuff where he managed to do them even better than Dylan himself, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to need to look that up on YouTube and because that just sounds interesting to hear Brian Ferry sing, a Bob Dylan song, because both of them have very unique singing styles.
I'm back. I just got another delivery here.
Oh, look at that! Jeez.
Yeah, I won't do an unboxing on this one, but future video that'll be coming.
Yeah.
I think some of that's from the auction the other day that I did.
Maybe it's something from the eras that we're talking about. So we'll have it.
maybe. But yeah, I did an online auction the other day, right, with Anthony and another Canadian guy, and I made about $300, but I also spent $300 buying their stuff.
Oh, that's all right. So they
had some great deals. So.
You get some new stuff, and didn't spend anything really.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It all balances. Well,
I don't know if I told you guys how much I spent last year. I don't know if I sent you the message, but I did a final tally. Well, not cash flow, but I bought 700 releases last year in 2022. Almost
And
700.
yes, it is confirmed with France's loss. Stunty
Oh.
is bitter.
He's bitter and he's pissed.
He's taking it out on Brian Ferry.
Yeah, that's funny.
Poor Brian.
But join us, Stunty. What are you waiting for? Just get in here.
That's
Even if you
right.
got nothing
And
to show.
It is you're up next here, Jason.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to do a few punk singles. I got a lot of punk 7 inches to show from the 2000s. So, and I'll start off with some Swedish punk hardcore. Maybe Jürgen can read some of this.
Instängd.
Insane? Yeah.
Closed in.
Closed in. Okay. I don't know the song titles on here, but
Vansinnig hjärtattack fångad. Insane heart attack captured.
nice.
Rebell, skräcken, instängd. Rebel, the fear, closed in.
All right. So 2007 hardcore punk release. Got this really cheap on sale. Was going to get rid of it, pass it on, but I really dig it. And I put it on one of my recent mixtapes. So, Richard, you may be getting one of those mixtapes soon in the mail. So keep an eye out.
Oh.
I sent some stuff. This is a split. Also included this in a record listening session the other day. And at first I thought it was just this band, Tvek, but it's actually a split with another band called Chevaux, who I think are probably French, at least a French name. So cool hardcore split as well. That's on a California label. Then we got some Sinks. This is on Fashionable Idiots out of Minneapolis. So lots of cool 7s. And one more I'll show here, Leopard print. This looks like a silkscreen print on here. And also kind of cool punk stuff I've included in some recent mixtapes. So a little punk round there. What's Stunty saying now? He's got COVID. He can't talk.
Yeah, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, I thought it was COVID, but I kept testing negative. It was just the flu. But whatever flu has been going around is just really nasty. It's taken me 3 weeks to fully recover from it.
Ouch.
It was, it just really wore me out. And I'm finally feeling normal.
Okay.
I mean, last week I was feeling kind of better, but this is the first week I really started to feel normal. So yeah, take care of yourself there.
Hey, Stunty, krya på dig. Let's get well in Swedish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he can make comments in the peanut gallery for what we're showing.
That's for sure.
There you go.
So, all right, this next band, I'm still in 2005. It's a little. They originally released this record as CD only in 2000, let's see, in 2005. In 2005, right? The vinyl pressing did not come out until 2013, but that was kind of the situation with a lot of their material, and that's a Japanese math rock band known as Toe. And this is the record, The Book About My Idle Plot on a Vague Anxiety. It's an instrumental group that the drummer is just maniacal. He is just an amazing, amazing drummer. So it's, very much kind of a post-rock, but also very much a math rock in terms of the rhythms, the polyrhythms in the structures of the songs. And then unlike Mouse on the Keys, which is a similar group, but it's keyboardists who are primarily the other instruments, it's guitars. So you've got the guitar playing style that, again, is going to be very similar to something, like Polvo, maybe something similar to like Don Caballero, or something similar to like drawing a freaking blank on, the group that did the album Spiderland. Why can't I? Slint. Jesus, taking a while for that to come up. So yeah, once I started listening to Slint, this is how I started finding about these other bands. And in fact, I will probably, and this is on this color vinyl. I will probably do a video after I take the time and really listen to all of these, going through their entire catalog, because I have just about everything that they have released on vinyl, including some 10 inches and other EPs. There's a couple 7-inch singles that I don't have yet. But the thing is, they do still have some material that is only available electronically. And I likely will not do that because I just don't have the setup in my system to play things like FLAC files and other digital formats that are not compressed. I just, if they were on something compressed like an MP3, then yeah, I could download it and then I could burn it onto a CD. But some of these other, there's a couple bands that have recordings that I would like to get the FLAC download, but I don't know what to do with it. Once I have it, I don't have the equipment to play a file like that and actually enjoy the sound. So, but anyway, yeah, Toe, very very needy math rock band. They have a lot of material that they've released in the 2000s. And if you're unfamiliar with them, I would say, hey, check them out, especially if you do like bands like Slint or Polvo or Don Caballero.
We need our guy Chris here for the indie rock sector of the session. Where is he today?
He said last week that he wasn't going to be able to make this one.
Okay. Maybe also watching football. No. Yeah, something else. Yeah.
All right, Jorgen, what are you going to bring up for us?
2 albums.
Okay.
First, rest in peace, Christine McVie. And the solo album called In the Meantime, from 2004. No, 4 was last time, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, we went 2000 to 2004.
Okay, but okay, I'm still showing it. This really great album, really relaxing, great pop. Definitely an underrated Christine McVie album. But if we jumping even further back in 1995, when Weezer, at least here, got their breakthrough with Buddy Holly and El Scorcho and so on, I was not that interested. I really hated it, and I still think that Weezer from these days is not my thing. So I spent half of a lifetime hating Weezer until I heard the song "The Girl Got Hot." And if you're wondering if I want you too. I heard those songs and I thought that, hey, this was among the best I ever heard Weezer. And I then got a copy of Attitude, and it turned out to be a whole lot better than I could imagine. So
interesting, because I was never a big Weezer fan either.
And of course, I found out that this is the Weezer album that everybody hates. Of course, my luck.
Well, sometimes you see, because
Wow.
Sometimes the one that they hate, like that Spoon album I was talking about, are a lot better than people think they are.
Welcome to my life. Albums that I like, everybody else hates. So that is the story of my life. But I stand for it. I like this album, and I think that Weezer after this has risen a whole lot. So today I like Weezer from this album and forward. Maybe I one day might start enjoy the old Weezer also, but not right now. But this is my favorite Weezer album by far at this moment. So highly recommended, I think.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, because it's not that I dislike Weezer. It's just they never, it's I'll listen to it. It's if someone's playing it, I'm not going to say turn that shit off. Or if it's on the radio, I'm not going to change the dial. It's just something that I just never really got overly excited about.
I think the old Weezer was more punkier than this version, but I'm not into punk, but I like the energy and the rock that they do right now.
Yeah. So Ed says he only knows them from South Park. So
yeah, I think same. I don't have any Weezer. I've never really listened to them. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only time I heard them was when that show 120 Minutes was on, and because that's about when the Blue album came out or something like that. That would have been like the 1990s, early 90s or late 80s. I don't know.
They've done some really great songs. They just recently this year released 4 albums. Or EPs. I don't know what it is, but they have released one for each season. They have done one spring, one summer, one autumn, and one winter, and contains really, really great songs on these 4.
Yeah.
Stunty's got a good point. They're sort of derivative, right? Derivative of other.
Yeah. So it's it was like Buddy Holly
sanitized.
Buddy Holly trying to do Pixie covers. So
yeah.
But anyway, there was another band of that era too that I was kind of interested for a while, but then I lost interest in them quickly, and that was Cracker. So that was kind of a similar band in my view. So, all right, well, Jason, what do you have for us?
All right, I'll dip into some house and techno for this round, some club hits. Of course, by mid-2000s is around when I started getting into digital DJing. So thank God for that, because my record collection would be even more. But so I do buy digital files all the time. You were talking about FLACs earlier. Never really bought a lot of FLACs. My systems can play them. Played a lot of waves, WAVs, AIFs. Anyway, the label I'm going to talk about is Poker Flat from Germany, and Steve Bug is on there. This is kind of the look for this label. This is a good label to pick up if you're looking for something kind of club techno. It's tech house. This one is by Trent Moeller. I don't know why. Well, I guess the Trent in it, so it always makes me think of Trent Reznor. But Trent Moeller has some great albums too. Jurgen might even like an album by Trent Moeller. He does like a full concept kind of album, techno album, 1 or 2 releases. This is a single called Nam Nam. So yeah, this label, I have a lot from this label. These are just a couple on the Poker Flat label out of Berlin. Another one out of Berlin as B-Pitch Control, which is actually run by a female DJ, Ellen Alien. She is a producer. This one is a track by Dusty Kid called Luna. Just played this the other night, actually, in my punk and techno set. Really great techno track. And then something a little bit more organic. Now, on the organic house tip, we got this was a mega single. And I don't know, what was this, 2005? This has David Byrne. This is Thievery Corporation featuring David Byrne and The Heart's a Lonely Hunter. This was a huge song that year. Played at all the festivals, Miami. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing this. Well, Bar Time maybe was bigger, but this was pretty big. Anyway, it's a favorite. It's got David Byrne on vocals and a really kind of, like I say, organic, kind of jazzy house feel. I've got a couple of different versions of this single. And you guys, I think we've talked about Thievery Corporation before, I feel like. Maybe not.
I don't recognize the...
Thievery Corporation was kind of like in the trip-hop kind of loungy stuff. What was that lounge CDs series we were talking about before, like Cafe Del Mar or something?
Right, Cafe Del Mar.
I feel like Thievery Corporation. Yeah, they're a little bit like Portishead, Thievery Corporation, without the vocalist.
Pompadour, I think, is the DJ or the person who compiled everything. But
yeah, this is one to look up if you ever see it. The Heart's a Lonely Hunter. If you're a David Byrne fan.
Yeah, I am, but I've really not explored much of his material outside of Talking Heads, and I know I really
He
need
does
to.
a lot. Yeah, he has a label for world music, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, right? So
I need to get off my keister and check that out. All right, so this next one here is just to me such a solid. Yeah, Buddha Bar is another one of those series.
yeah, Buddha Bar. Yeah, I was thinking about
But
that.
yeah, is this one here, Arctic Monkeys? Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. Uh, from 2005, and I just love this record, man. Just such a killer record. Just
I had that on CD. Yeah, it's a good album. The whole Britpop thing.
the singing, his his delivery is just so. And then some of the photos in here, I mean, Jesus, beat up faces and just some rough guys. I think they're from Manchester. I would, if Rob Walker was, out there, I don't know, but yeah, Arctic Monkeys, I really like.
I heard of
Like
them.
this.
I heard of them.
And they've apparently, I think they came out with something like within the last year or something, and I don't know if it's the same lineup or whatever. But this so far, this is the only record I have. I mean, on the label, you can see just all those cigarette butts. I mean, I can smell that. I look at that and I can smell that. But yeah, good stuff. Arctic Monkeys, good, hard post punk. Sheffield band. Okay.
Oh, were they?
And
Okay.
and just yeah, I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I was over in England around mid 2000s. My wife was doing a 1 year program, so I'd go over a lot. I went to a lot of these awesome like Britpop kind of night. I don't know if Britpop's the right, but it was like all indie rock and Brit stuff, and Arctic Monkeys and the Killers, right, and the Strokes, and it's like that whole scene in the mid 2000s, right? And these bar nights, they were just wild. They were fun bar nights to go to. Some of them were big. They were like in a club, like it was like a club size of a bar night,
Right. Right. And sometimes those are the best shows, if you can get into them.
Yep.
All right, Jorgen, what do you have for us?
3 albums from the same artist, and it is an artist I've shown many times. I'm talking about Staying in Britain, Pet Shop Boys, and we have from 2006, we have Fundamental, an album that is said to be Pet Shop Boys' most political album. It is also produced by Trevor Horn, which Pet Shop Boys only had worked with once in one song before. It's All Right from '89. It contains some really, really great stuff. I'm not going to consider it their absolute best, but it's a really great album. We have songs like the single I'm With Stupid, that is a really great one, and it's also a song that talks about Britain's involvement in the Iraqi war after the 9/11. And it's a really great one. And after that, naturally, it has to come a disco album, Disco 4, with mixes. And as I said last week, if anyone can do remixes that sounds interesting, it is Pet Shop Boys, because
I have that. I have that one, but it's a burned copy someone gave to me. I was reading that release ran into some legal problems, and so there are no official releases of it. If you've got something, it's technically a bootleg.
No, this is an original. It says Parlophone on the back.
Then maybe the legal problems happened afterwards, because
I would assume in that case that of course it released X amount of copies before it got in trouble.
Yeah, which happens quite a bit with some releases. They think everything is ironed out and okay, then it gets released, and then the music publishers go, "Now wait a minute."
And we mentioned the Killers before, and they had done one of them, the collection of mixes by Pet Shop Boys featuring songs by. Okay, they have remixed others here. Okay, my bad. So it's a Killers Read My Mind, and it's a Pet Shop Boys Star or Blazing mix. So
I like the Yoko Ono skating on thin ice.
well, if anyone can make Yoko Ono sound interesting, maybe it's Pet Shop Boys. But then, of course, in 2009, sorry, came Yes. And this is a great one. This is the albums between 1990, bilingual in 96, and this one had been really good, with exception maybe from Nightlife. But this one is, in my opinion, the best, the really great comeback. This is the best they did in many years. This is Pet Shop Boys going back to their dance style. And this is genuine Pet Shop Boys, and Love Etc. Really great one, and a sadly underrated album track, All Over the World. Such an amazing song. So this is definitely an amazing, great Pet Shop Boys album.
I never, I did get a chance to see the Pet Shop Boys here in Chicago at the Auditorium Theater. But it wasn't until I'm going to say around 2016 or so, 2015. So I don't know what they were touring at that time, what the release was, but it was a hell of a show, and it was great. They played a wide variety of their catalog, and it was a really, it's a great venue. The Auditorium Theater in Chicago is a great venue.
And to respond to Jason here, when it comes to Madonna, of course, I have abandoned her a little bit. But
Okay.
that, as I said, after Confessions on a Dance Floor, I think her career went too much hip hop influences and so on.
Wow, she had a long run. I mean, how long was she going to go for? I mean,
but the other, if an artist is good, I know that many artists doesn't change all that much, and if an artist is good, I know that how they make melodies and so on. If they continue the same style, I like them. I don't put a date on what I like. I like what I like, no matter what.
It depends, though. I mean, like, okay, look, Aretha Franklin has a voice. I mean, Aretha Franklin is a classic artist that could go for 50 years, as long as she can keep the voice, right? Madonna never had a voice. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Madonna never had a voice. Madonna's whole appeal is she's a pop star. She's very good managing her career. She was just like, right, a dance music kind of.
The problem with Madonna is that she worked with the right person. She worked with Dallas Austin. She worked with Shep Pettibone. She worked with Jelly Bean. And
Jelly Bean launched her. Yeah,
and
totally.
She worked with the great Stephen Bray. Yeah. But the problem is that she's starting to following the modern stuff. She's always been the trendsetter and finding her ways to what's modern.
Too trendy.
But then after Ray of Light, she's starting to be more and more searching. She
desperate. She gets desperate.
Dreadfully boring. Then come Confession on Dance Floor. Props to her. And then she worked more and more with more modern and more. Instead of putting finger up and feeling that I want to start this trend, she started to follow in others, to try to keep up with others instead, following others. And
it's sad. I don't know why she did that.
Instead of doing something on her own, I am going to give props. Some of the stuff that she made for the previous album, that what was it called, Heart something.
Right.
It was actually among the best she has done in many years, but she has a long way to go before she becomes an artist that I'm interested in again in full time, like I was before. But the albums she did before Ray of Light, in my opinion, is still among the best pop albums there is.
I don't know. I like some of her early stuff, but yeah. I think another problem with her, it's not like her fault, it's kind of the industry too. The timing that she was doing this, she got sucked into an album culture. She should always be a single culture, right? We mentioned Hung Up. She always has, like, she can get a good single out, But to have a full album of Madonna, like, why? It's just unnecessary. Really.
There's no artist actually back then that could survive with only releasing singles.
But now you could, right? The funny, ironic thing is now with Spotify, it's single more than ever, right? I mean, people just make playlists. No one listens to an album.
We talking about Madonna in the past, and no album before MP3 days could survive without releasing an album.
Well, it's a full trajectory because she's been around so long, right? So when she began, it was a little bit more single. I mean, the video, right? Material Girl, all those albums have tons and tons of hits. They're like chock full. The first 2 albums, right? Holiday, Lucky Star, you name it, right? But then this 2000s era is like the album era because the CD, right? 75 minutes. You got to fill Ray of Light. Like, how long is that? 75 minutes? Like, God.
Then we're going to say that we live in. There's always been an era where controversy creates cash, and
she got addicted to that.
Create controversy in various forms, especially maybe sexual controversies. It is Madonna, but after Ray of Light, she turned became a little bit older, over 50 years old and so on. Not as great age, and Madonna knows that. Her days of being a sex icon is a little bit past that, and that's when the problem. She can't create controversy to get cash anymore in the same way.
Right.
I think it's a shame.
I feel like she started becoming a little bit bitter. After Confessions, she would take jabs at Lady Gaga and at others and that kind of thing. And she, to me, she was not producing music. She felt, she found this whole new spiritual self in her. And it's almost like she just, chucked it all away. It was all show. It really wasn't, meaning anything. Anyway,
she didn't need any. She didn't need any of this, though, by the way, because she is a successful businesswoman. She has her own label, right? Maverick label. She could have just been like, you know what? I'm going to be in the background. I'm going to run my label, count my money, and make investments.
It's interesting to see guys like Pet Shop Boys who still exist. They still make music.
Yeah.
And they still do what they do best. They know what the people want. They know that maybe that they won't be number one as they were with Always on My Mind and so on, but they do what they do best, and that's great pop music. Their style, and they don't need to be doing.
They still keep doing it.
They don't need to be going any kind of a trip hop or doing a hip hop style and so on. House,
all the trends, Yeah, they're kind of classic that way. I like
but
that.
They do. Maybe they sometimes go in a different direction, like they did in Electric when they turned more into dance music. But they did you still recognize Pet Shop Boys sound. Yeah. They know what people want.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, Jason, what are you gonna bring up for us?
All right, I'm gonna go deep into the underground. If Jorgen is our mainstream guy, I will be the obscurist. I'm going to deep underground heavy metal territory here. Ooh. And what was it earlier? Richard showed like the cigarette butts. You could smell them.
Yeah.
How about Let It Stink? Yeah, these guys, you can smell this cover too, eh? This is a death metal band.
The idea from the cover from.
Yeah. Oh my God.
One in the lower corner looks like the Emperor from Star Wars.
Yeah. So this is their ode to the Beatles. This is a band called Death Breath. I love this. I mean, when I saw this, I gotta have it, kind of thing. 2007 release. Guess what? They're death metal. I mean, who would have guessed, right? By the way, Jorgen, they're also from your home country, another Swedish band.
Poor me.
I think you need to investigate. Let It Stink. It turns out I have a lot of Swedish.
I think that the title speaks for itself.
It's quite good, actually. Now we're going to jump over to Japan and a band called Cataplexy. I mean, no one can even read these. That's part of metal. Can't read the titles. Album is called Lunar Eclipse, Chaos to the Ruin. This is black metal. So this is a black metal band from Japan. Now you guys know the difference between black metal and death metal, right? Black metal's on the Satan. Black metal's on Satan.
Cookie Monster.
Right. Death metal's got the lower, growly Cookie Monster. Black metal's got the high pitch. And black metal tends to be more experimental, too. They get into atmospherics. They're about Satan. Death metal is all about death. Just death. Doesn't have to be Satan. Just death, decrepit. It's kind of gross kind of stuff. So they're from Japan. These guys are from the US of A. Embryonic Devourment. A really cheap, shitty looking album cover, I gotta say, but pretty cool death metal. And last but not least, some kings of death metal. PLF, Pretty Little Flower. That's what it stands for. Crushing Fury of Bastardization. I mean, you can't make this shit up.
Okay.
I think these guys, now check out how many songs they fit on this sucker. 24
Yeah.
tracks. And this is actually shorter than 30 minutes. This is actually grindcore, which is like taking death metal and speeding it up and putting it in a blender and making it even short. It's great for me because I have a short attention span. So PLF, these guys are from Houston, Texas. 2000s was kind of, for metal, underground metal was kind of an extension of all the extremes that were happening in the 90s underground. Got a little bigger. And they got bigger because, I don't know if you guys remember Jim Carrey, right? The comedian.
Yeah.
He put in, what's this movie, The Mask? He put like some death metal bands in there. He talked about death metal on like Arsenio Hall or one of these talk shows. And all of a sudden, death metal blew up. It was kind of big for a minute. Anyway,
musically, a lot of these bands I find very interesting. It's the vocals that I just
well, you have to love it.
Deal with the vocals. It's
you've got to embrace the vocals.
I interviewed the vocal of the death black metal. I thought that I don't know what kind of metal it was. It's not my thing, so I don't know the difference. But I interviewed the singer in a band called Dark Funeral. That was they were and that was he had spooky music in the background.
Right.
He threatened the reviewers that didn't want to review their music and print, especially that.
They all sound like a Muppet with throat cancer.
Well, I think the important thing for all these extreme metal bands is I hope that they have a sense of humor. I mean, I hope that those threats were not real by any means. I think you could say that about any musical genre. Artists that take themselves a little too seriously, not fun. Nobody wants to really bother after a while, right?
Yeah,
so I think
we're just talking
I was
about
also 20 years old when I did that interview, and I was training to be a journalist. I was in media school back then, so I was a little bit it was a little new to me of interviewing guys like that.
Like, I think these guys are having fun. Like, I mean, come on, let it stink. That there's a joke there. But
All right. Well, this next band that I got, this record it's weird. It says, this is just the issue I got. It's 2006, but it was this is a 2005 release of Scissor Sister. This is their second album, Tada. And they were coming off a really great ride from their first album, which the year before in 2004 won 3 awards, nominated for 6, but won 3 for the Brit Pop Awards. I really like this album. I mean, the first album is good too, but there's some really great songs. I mean, there was the big hit, I Don't Feel Like Dancing. They were always a bigger band in England than they were in the United States, where they were from New York City. But this is just so many great songs on here, like Kiss Off and The Other Side, just really interesting songs they're interesting songs of love with a different perspective on them. But the closer song, Everybody Wants the Same Thing, is just such an anthem that it's just such a strong record. They continued to make some good records afterwards, but these first 2, to me, are probably their best material, with the debut and with Tada. And it's a band. This is one of the bands I was so into that I could see them at small venues here in the U.S. because they didn't sell out big arenas like they did in Great Britain, where they were just so much bigger. I mean, they may have played Wembley Stadium I mean, they played big shows. Here in the U.S., they were very small venues. I've seen them 3 times in very small venues here in Chicago. They did open for Lady Gaga when I saw Lady Gaga in Boston at the Boston Garden, I think is what it's called. But that was probably the biggest venue I saw them at, and they were the opening act. So, but yeah, Scissor Sister, excellent album, very pop, very pop. A lot of influence with Elton John. He did some co-writing with them, and also played on some of their material. And but yeah, Scissor Sister is just the nice thing about the unique thing about the band is as animatronic, who is the other singer, she and Jake Shears. She says everybody but the drummer in this band likes to sleep with men, and she's the only woman in the band. So, it's
a real mix, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever hear their cover of "Comfortably Numb"?
Oh,
really
yeah,
cool track. Yeah, Tiga did a remix of that. I knew the DJ.
Yeah, Jake Shears has this incredible falsetto voice.
Yeah,
and which for some people don't like the falsetto voice. It can be grating, but yeah, he he got his start as a go-go dancer in gay bars. And so his stage presence, you can tell that that's his background because he has fantastic moves while he's singing, and he's constantly taking clothing off during the show. So it's a fun concert to go to.
Where were they from? Were they from Chicago?
New York City.
Oh, I think they're not around anymore, right? Did they disband now?
No, they're on a indefinite hiatus.
Right.
So they haven't officially necessarily broke up, but they all went and started doing. I mean, Jake Shears was on the Masked Singer. He was one of the final. He was like a finalist and something like that.
Okay.
And so he's probably done a lot more solo material. But their guitarist Patty Boone is a really solid guitar player. And then there's Baby Daddy, who played the keyboards and the bass. He and Jake Shears, I think, kind of started as a duo because if you get their CDs for like Tada, they have a lot of extra material on it that includes, older, like the song about How Do You Make a Lady, which is about some geeks creating robot ladies. It's pretty funny stuff.
That band brings me right back.
That movie from the 80s. I don't recall the name, but
Making a Robot.
Yeah, the two guys making a female.
Right. Yeah.
Weird Science.
Weird Science.
Yeah, Weird Science. Yeah. So probably is where they've got the inspiration from. Fun stuff, though. So that's a band that I have everything that they've released. But those are the only two. Their first 2 records are the only 2 that have been released on vinyl. Everything else is on CD.
I thought of a mid-2000s band just the other night. You guys remember The Gossip?
No.
Remember that one? That was a big. They were on Saturday Night Live. I watch Saturday Night Live. It's a great way to find out about new bands that the kids are into or whatever. And they had Standing on the Verge. They were one of these like disco rock kind of fusion bands, like LCD Sound System and not the Killers. Killers is more indie rock, right? But all these 2000s bands like Safety Scissors or whatever. Yeah, that brings me right back.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Jorgen, what do you have for us, Mr. Mainstream?
Well, I'm going to leave Britain and leave the electronic stuff and go to an artist that I liked before, but I have enjoyed even more these days. And I'm talking about 3 albums that were released during these years by Bruce Springsteen. And first we have Devils and Dust. And this is a special release that contains also both a CD and a bonus DVD. And I like this cover actually because it looks like I have been keeping this album a little bad, that it's been worn out, but it's supposed to be like that. He have made the sleeve to look like it has been someone who has been keeping them little. So I like that when they do something different with the sleeves. And we have this one is from 2005, 2007, Magic. Also a really, really great Springsteen album. And my favorites of them is Working on a Dream from 2009, which also is a version that has a DVD set. So this is also a 2-disc set. And it also contains a bonus track with his song from the Wrestler album movie. Really, really great Springsteen album, this one. So 3 albums with the boss.
And I never really explored his later material, probably starting with Nebraska. I never really really explored what he was doing. And I guess, radio had become so formulaic that you really, unless you were following them, like maybe you were, and you wouldn't necessarily know what some people were doing.
I actually want to agree also that when these albums came out, I knew about them, of course, because they were writing about it, they were doing reviews of it. But I didn't pay much attention to the newer Bruce Springsteens until I got them myself a couple of years ago. And I found out that Bruce Springsteen in the modern age is really great. And some songs they had made recently also have been really, really great, including some of the soul covers that he's done on the latest album. So Bruce Springsteen is both past, present, and future.
Yeah. I think Lucky Town was probably the last release I ever got of his.
Is that an album or a song?
No, it's an album. There was 2 of them that got released at almost the same time. Lucky Town and
Human Touch.
Human Touch, yeah.
He released 2 albums at once.
Yeah.
He's a guy that really embraced the album format.
Oh yeah,
he's an album guy. He's a songwriter, I guess. Does he write all those songs? He writes all those songs.
Yeah.
Except for the last album, he had done covers of soul songs.
Yeah. But he's a classic singer-songwriter, classic rock kind of guy.
When it comes to Springsteen, he was a single guy back in the 80s.
Right, as they all work, as the videos. Yeah.
Right.
But he became
that's how you had to get your start.
You had to have your videos, man.
Like many artists becomes album artists as the years goes by.
But not all artists, but yeah. But yeah, he definitely
they're definitely an album artist these days.
Yeah.
I had never read any biographies about Bruce Springsteen, but I will eventually. But I did read this one, this autobiography by Stevie Van Zandt. And he talks a lot about Springsteen in here and their relationship.
Naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a great band, right? They had all kinds of talent and stuff. I think my problem with that is just, it's so album related. As a DJ, I'd be like, where do I pick? You get deep cuts. Like, what are the deep cuts from those 5-6 CDs you just showed there?
Let's just say that.
How many albums did the guy release? Like,
Bruce Springsteen is not something that you put on the disco set. Maybe some the last.
He made a lot of.
I didn't say a disco set, but you could do a rock DJ set. If you're a radio guy, how do you pick a cut? What cuts do you
format?
Bruce Springsteen released singles. He released singles.
Yeah.
The problem
is college radio, you can still pick your own songs.
You got to have them also. But like you said, Bruce Springsteen is a guy that people buy the albums. They don't buy the singles, but still it releases singles for the radio stations to play.
Right.
Then they don't play. They prefer to play Lady Gaga or stuff like that instead. That's not as fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, college radio, you can still do your own programming. It's not centralized by a computer system or whatever. But and even AIs, like let's say you're on Spotify and you're like, because they quickly figure out who you are, right? Like, okay, this guy likes Bruce Springsteen, so suddenly they start shoving you Bruce Springsteen songs. Spotify's all song related, so how does it pick from these albums, right? It just randomly pick them, I guess.
I don't use Spotify, so I don't know how that works.
It's another world, man. It's a whole other world out there.
Well, how do
I'm a
they
little
pick
ancient.
something from like Underworld, and pick something because that's kind of the same thing, just because of the length of some of their songs. But anyway, what have you got for us, Jason?
Digress. I'm going to go into some albums as well. Here's a genre that loves the album too, and being a DJ so long, I always like singles and songs, right? And but I decided, during the pandemic, I had a lot of time on the hands, so I said, "Hey, I'm going to dive deep into some metal, and I'm going to see what the album format's all about. I'm going to throw on a CD. I'm going to listen to the whole fucking CD and see if there's anything good in here. And actually, there is often, right? But then there's always some throwaway. First band is Unearth. This is I think sometimes these guys get lumped into new metal. These are going to be more familiar metal bands for all the viewers out there. The last round was the obscure. Unearth is fairly well known, kind of mid-tier metal band. And oddly enough, I've actually seen them like 3 times live. Why? Mostly because they're opening up for a bigger band. So you get to see a band live enough. You're like, they're not bad. They're pretty good. So some people might scoff at Unearth. They're not like, the most cutting edge thrash, death metal. They're none of those. They're kind of they're pretty thrashy, but kind of mainstream or modern production for Unearth. So it's one of their albums. They got a bunch. Here's a band that I decided to dive a little deeper in, Testament. Now, obviously, I'm a kid of the 80s, so I remember Testament in the 80s. They're actually one of, what do they call, the big 5 thrash titans, with Slayer and Exodus and Metallica, and Testament would be kind of in the 5. Bay Area band, long-running band, lot of big discography. Where do you begin? And this is, this is coming in the mid-2000s, so you got, thankfully, there's only 11 songs on here. They didn't do 15. But the songs are a little long for, especially a guy who's into punk. These are probably good 5-6 minute songs, so it gets a little boring. This one's called "The Formation of Damnation." Then I just mentioned them. Exodus, also from the Bay Area. Gary Holt's on guitar on here. He's played in a bunch of the bands. This one has a different vocalist for Exodus. They're on like a third vocalist for this one. It's called Let There Be Blood, which I think is a Daniel Day-Lewis movie, right?
Right.
This has got, because it's a CD, it's got some bonus tracks, right? A bonus track, Hell's Breath. So yeah, I would, during the pandemic, I'd like throw on a CD and play some old school video games, because I'm old school like that, and see where it takes me. And if the album was annoying enough that after like the 3rd or 4th song, I get up and actually take the damn thing out, put a different one in, then, it's not working that well. I'll show 2 more here. I got Warbringer. Really like this band. I think they're from California. This is thrash, like modern day thrash metal coming back. When I say modern production, it's not the production of the 80s that I grew up on, so it's a little bit more digital and whatever. And then this band was still kicking around. They've been going forever. Motorhead. Lemmy, R.I.P. Love Lemmy and Motorhead. Kiss of Death is not an album anybody really picks out. A lot of people, kind of sleep on the later Motorhead years, but you know what? It's damn good stuff. It's heavy as hell. A lot of times it's more heavy metal than you think.
I hate to say I sleep on the early years of Motorhead also.
There's a trio there.
Is there any connection with that band name and Motorhead Sherwood of the Mothers of Invention?
No idea. That's a 60s reference, man. That's beyond my time. I wouldn't know that. But I know Lemmy was in a 60s band called Hawkwind, right?
Right.
70s band, yeah.
70s band, yeah.
A hippie band, and he actually did vocals a little bit in that band too, right?
Yeah. Those albums with Lemmy on it are great albums.
Yeah, I need to pick those up, man. I need some Hawkwind. That's kind of what I'm on my radar for next.
There's 70s, but I mean, yeah, that's a band that's been around. They're still creating, music, but they've changed, styles as people come and go in the band. But the early 70s stuff, even some stuff after Lemmy was gone, the 70s stuff is really, really good.
Yeah,
Um, so there's a few records here I'm gonna go through,
yeah,
kind of to speed things up. Because we're going to go beyond 2 hours, but I don't want to go too far beyond 2 hours.
same, yeah.
Yeah, and so this first one I know is going to probably. There's no probably about it. It's going to drive Stunty crazy. He's going to probably leave the stream.
Have an aneurysm.
And that is this one here. This is DJ Tiesto.
Oh, jeez.
Maxi Jazz doing the Dance for Life. I saw this in a record store and I just had to grab it. It's just such a cool cover, cool label, and it was a record that was released as a fundraiser for Start Dancing, Stop AIDS. This was released in 2006. Yeah, he has a couple. There's a couple where blatant grabs on here where DJ Tiesto is sampling Underworld, but I like this record. I like the groove. I like the beat. It's a fun record. My one CD that I decided that I'm going to show is this one here. It's a Japanese CD and it's a soundtrack, but it's all original music, and it goes with the anime series Mushishi, and it's by a Japanese. The music, the soundtrack is mostly by someone by the name of Toshio Masuda, who was a Japanese synthesizer player and composer, and a lot of what he plays on here is it's a traditional stringed instrument it lays flat. The Japanese have their version of it. The Chinese have their version of it. I even think Vietnamese have their version of it, but it's a lot of strings that very high bridges, and but I can't remember what it's called, where they both hammer and pluck the strings. But Mushishi is a really interesting series. Every episode is self-contained. And Koto, yes, I think that's exactly what it is, Ed. The music is just really, when I was watching the series and I was hearing the soundtrack, I was like, man, is this available? And it took me a long time to find a copy and ordered it from a seller in Japan to get it. So, but wonderful stuff. Slightly more mainstream is the 2007 release by Porcupine Tree, Fear of a Blank Planet. So I had started picking up some Porcupine Tree, really enjoy this. This is the other one in absentia is much more accessible, I think, maybe than this one. This one is a really serious listen. It's again music that you're not going to be necessarily putting on and just listening in the background, but it is good, very good, and I enjoy it. And then for this particular round, more familiar perhaps, we got some Bad Brains, Build a Nation. So this is a 2007 release. So the Dance for Life and Mushishi were 2006, and then Porcupine Tree and then Bad Brains here is 2007.
Is that a reissue or something, or
Yeah,
a compilation? Okay, yeah.
It because none of their material was ever released But actually, this was, released in
The
uh,
80s? They're 80s bands.
no. It was their earlier catalog. Um, this particular album, I was looking it up to make sure that this was not a reissue.
Hmm.
And maybe I am mistaken, and it is a reissue. But it's about the last album that they put out before they started to lose their punk edge, and their strong, to me, reggae roots. They started to become a little more spiritual, and the edge was kind of gone, at least in my
Well,
opinion.
they got into heavy metal even too. Eye Against Eye has got some metal elements to it.
Right, which I think is
Heavier. Yeah.
earlier. That's early. That's before Build a Nation. I think that's
Oh, yeah.
one of the records I don't have yet, and I do want to get that.
Yeah, Eye Against Eye was like 1986, I want to say. It was like they weren't as hardcore as the early stuff.
Yeah, so I may have broken my rules here by showing that, because it's a
Well, it's your
reissue.
show, so you can do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I shouldn't do that though, so I got to be careful. But anyway, um, it's a very good record, and so that on my next run, I'll be I'll be doing some more 2007 and 2008 and 9.
So 2 rounds left, or this one and one more, or
Let's
let's
no,
cap it at that.
we could do uh, come back to me, and then I'll do one more, and then the two of you do one more after that.
Yeah,
So
I
you
got
guys
enough.
got two more rounds on and one more.
Yeah. Make it
All right.
count, Jorgen. Make it count.
Jorgen.
He's got loads of stuff there.
I'm going Swedish.
Surprise, surprise.
Because Swedish music back in those years was not something that I was particularly fond of. I usually say that it were extremely few artists that I actually followed. But there also are some that I have learned to like today. But starting with a band that I liked very much back then, and I have all of their albums. No, not all. I'm missing a few. Sorry, about one or two. But I'm talking about a band that I showed numerous times now. Swedish group Kent that I showed. This is the album Du och jag och döden, You and Me and the Death. Continuing of the very dark style with a lot of little new wave-ish synth rocky style, and really great album. But then came one of my absolute favorites, Tillbaka till verkligheten, Back to Reality, in 2007. And this is, in my opinion, the closest thing we have gotten a Swedish Depeche Mode. If you listen to a song like Christopher Columbus, to Columbus, a song that they have here, and that one sounds definitely like it could be produced by Depeche Mode or something like that. So this is a really great Kent album. This might be my, next to Hagnesta Hill, my favorite Kent album. Really amazing, synth pop, rocky style. And then after that, 2009, came the album Red. Also a really great one. So 3 albums by a band that have grown to be my favorite band, Kent. Another one of my absolute favorite that I've shown a couple of times is the singer-songwriter Peter Lemark, who released an album called Kärlek i tystnadens tid, Love in the Era of the Silence. And Peter Lemark here has grown older, so much is about singing about love when you have grown older and more gone into each other in the relationship. and really, really well made, really great produced, and highly recommended. And another singer-songwriter that I at that time thought was dreadfully boring. It took me a lot of years before I heard a compilation by him, and I realized that, hey, this was way better than I could imagine. After that, I am a fan of him. How Life Can Turn. This is an artist called Lars Winnerbäck, another singer-songwriter with a very interesting voice. This is an album called Tänk om jag ångrar mig och sen ångrar mig igen. What if I regret and then regret myself again? I'm not surprised with that opinion, Christopher. Come with something new. It's not something new. I knew it. And I knew that you really wouldn't like Lars Winnerbäck either. But I think this is a really nice singer-songwriter today. I think it's with a great guitar playing, and I like his voice and really nice description in his lyrics. So highly recommended. Some great Swedish music from these years.
Oh, okay. So some of that, I imagine, it sounds really interesting, but because it's Swedish, if there's not a lot of instrumentation to it, it's all about the song, and then I'm probably not going to get it.
The problem with guys like Peter Mark, it's one of my favorite lyric writers, but in the Peter Mark case, is famous for his lyrics, but of course, then you have to know Swedish too. So that is the problem. Yes. When it comes to Kent, I think that Kent lyrics are a little bit fuzzy, maybe, but they have so amazing instrumentation also. So that one you most likely could enjoy, even though. And they have made 2 albums in English, as I've shown. Isola and Hackness to Hill are in English.
Yeah.
Lars Winnerbäck is also in Swedish.
And Isola is the one that Zeb recommends for.
It's not my favorite, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
But that one is in English also.
All right. Jason, what do you have for us?
Okay. Well, I just want to say I'm glad Jürgen showed some Swedish, because at that point I was the only one who showed Swedish hardcore and death metal. So I'm going to do a punk round, and then I'll the last round after this it'll be a mixed bag of electronic and whatever. So I'll do a punk round here. A couple of records. Somebody was saying, what about them vinyls? Holy shit. That cover alone is fun, man.
Yeah.
You gotta love hardcore punk. Look at that. That's a pretty fun band. 2007 release. Don't know a lot about that. Just happened to pick it up. This is a band that I get mixed up constantly with another band that has one of the same words in the title. This is Double Negative. Pretty good logo there too, Double Negative, and I'm always getting them mixed up with was it Negative Assault, another band, anyway, another hardcore punk band. But this is Double Negative out of Raleigh, North Carolina. So I think Michael Pilmer knows this band. No Way Records, pretty good hardcore in your face from the 2000s. And another hardcore punk band who are from Europe, from Amsterdam. I don't have a lot of bands from Amsterdam. Vitamin X. Happened to find this in a sales bin for $5. Picked it up. Thought maybe it was metal. Kind of looked heavy metal from the cover. And it's a hardcore band. And it's produced by Steve Albini. Turns out it was produced by Steve Albini. It's actually not bad. Not too bad. Especially for $5. And last couple punk things I'll show on CD. Total Abuse. This is kind of a noise punk band, I think, from Austin, Texas. This is like a compilation, it feels like. You got 27 tracks on here. But again, I won't get bored because it's hardcore punk, so it'll be fast and furious and short songs. Cool CD. I like getting punk CDs. You don't see CD format is not well known for the underground punkers too much, right? They usually have the 7-inch. And this is really obscure. Hair Police is the band. They've got quite a few releases. Cool cover, eh? There's for your Frank Zappa kind of thing right there. This is a real noise punk band, kind of industrial, actually. Pretty experimental punk. And I think they're from Michigan. It says on the back, MI. So other than that, I don't know much more about Hair Police. Maybe there's a connection with uh, who's the guy now? Aaron Dillaway and Wolfgang or something. They do experimental punk, maybe out of Michigan. So yeah, that's my punk kind of segment there.
Yeah, I just looked them up in Discogs, and there's nothing. It just says Hair Police, and then but they've got a lot of releases.
Yeah.
So
pretty cool record. I don't know how I found it. I think it was in a Discogs order. Just like, okay, add that to the pile. 5 tracks, pretty fun.
Yeah, there's. I noticed when I was going through and compiling my releases, I saw that the Residents had a few releases during this time, none of which I had. And also, Zeb, you mentioned about the Flaming Lips. Interestingly, I just watched. Okay, was it on Netflix or was it the Criterion Channel? It might have been the Criterion Channel. It was a rockumentary about the Flaming Lips when they were doing their shows in Oklahoma City during the pandemic, and the unique thing where they got the band members were in these bubbles and the audience were in these bubbles, and how that whole process evolved. And they did a series of shows that every one of them was sold out. And playing the music, and how it was really quite an interesting way for them to continue the space bubble concerts. So really interesting how they did that. And it was kind of surprising that it didn't really catch on with some other bands, maybe because other bands kind of thought, well, people will think we're just copying Flaming Lips. But the reality was, it was a really great idea to continue to do live performances in a manner of people protecting themselves. And according to the documentary, nobody who attended these shows tested positive afterward for for COVID. So interesting stuff. All right, so for my final round, and then you guys will have yours. I've got kind of a little eclectic mix here of items. The first one is this one, Bon Iver, or Bon Iver. I don't know, but For Emma, Forever Ago. So this is one of these records that shows up in like the lists of some of the most important and influential and that kind of thing. It also is a very nostalgic and sad record, but to me, very beautifully put together. It's one of those types of records that I don't think you're going to listen to all that often. Kind of like Lou Reed's Magic and Loss. It's a really good record, but it's very personal, and it's one where you need to sit down and listen to it as you're going through. This is a record I got from somebody who gave it to me, the Fleet Foxes, eponymous. Good, I guess, I don't know, what would you call it? It's a little more on the poppy side.
Richard, you stole mine. Look at this.
Well, I was going to make a comment that this is pretty good that we go through this entire show and we have not.
We got one that connects. I mean, it's pretty rare.
Yeah,
pretty rare.
So you've got the same one there.
Yeah,
so,
I love that Winter's Hymn. That's my favorite song on that one.
So and the
it's like
artwork,
a cappella kind of. Yeah.
The artwork, the piece of art that was used for the cover is just really kind of amazing. This, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, that particular artist has done other works that are really strange and bizarre.
That's on Sub Pop too, that record. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's on the Sub Pop label.
I've thought about selling that record though many times because I just don't listen to it that often, and I
Yeah,
mostly love that one song.
I don't listen to it very often either, but every time I do, I really, really
It's
enjoy
good.
it.
Yeah, exactly. It is one of those records. Yeah.
Now, this next one I bought solely because of the cover, and then it was so cool, the inner material. Didn't know anything about this band, but you will know us by the Trail of Dead is the name of the band, and the record is the Century of Self. So this is a very progressive rock, I guess you could say. This was released in 2009. The other records I showed were 2008. Although the Bon Iver came out on CD in 2007, didn't come out on vinyl until 2008. But yeah, just really wild uh, artwork, the drawings, a combination of a lot of Eastern mysticism involved in the artwork. You know, Buddhist and um, uh, what am I thinking of? Buddhism, which derived from Brahmanism, Brahma, etc. But yeah, the other, the inserts again, a lot of that kind of drawing. Very interesting. That it's another one that I don't listen to very often, but it's an enjoyable listen each time. Very much a concept album, I believe. Another one I have here. This is very lo-fi, experimental, electronic music, and I think I bought it because of I just saw it, in a bin, and I saw this cover, and I thought, well, that's different. Um, and it's this band called Pink Noise, and the record is called Graffiti Youth. Yeah, very lo-fi. Um, I think you know what I'm going to have to look them up again. I think they're might be either Michigan or a Chicago band. Um, so Pink, yeah, this one, Pink Noise, is yeah, again nothing. Discogs. They're on MySpace, geez, and Bandcamp. But
Yeah, one of
very,
these 2000s bands that kind of abandoned their whole career, I guess, and didn't bother updating the info on Discogs.
yeah, yeah, but there's a lot of material that they released.
That looks cool,
So
man. I'd probably pick up something like that too. Like especially if it was on the cheap side.
very
Try it out.
basic label.
Yeah,
Nothing fancy. What
take
is
a
this
gamble.
label? It's Kill Shaman is the label, and it has a website, killshaman.com.
So sort of like lo-fi punk, but with a keyboard kind of thing, or synth or something.
Yeah, there's some electronics going on there in there with the and very experimental.
Okay.
It's and then the last one I got here is this is punk, post punk. That I saw the cover and I thought, oh, that's a cool cover. And so I'd never heard of the Polar Bear Club before.
Hmm.
I believe they're out of Boston, and but yeah, good stuff. I really like it. Chasing Hamburg is the record, and but yeah, good stuff. I'm very happy that I bought this as a blind buy, and they've got a fairly decent discography as well. So that's a 2009, as was Pink Noise. That was a 2009, and yeah, and we'll know us by the Trail of Dead. Those last three were all 2009 releases. So that does it for me. So What you guys got, Jorgen?
I have my final round
Last
with a lot of
round.
mixes. A lot of mixes. Starting up with an album that we have talked about many times the past past times. REM Accelerate. That I think is one of my favorites by them. I think this is
Yeah, I
really
had that on a burned CD. I did not, so I didn't show it, but I saw them in concert for that tour. It was a great, great show.
yeah. This is a really great album. It's very underrated, and don't mention it all too much, but it's really great. This is an artist that came very fast, had a hit. This is the life, and then she faded away very fast. But and this is Amy MacDonald, and I thought back then that it was so, but then I heard This Is the Life more and more. I realized that this is actually really good, and I found the album, and the album was surprisingly good also. Yeah, it's really good, Seb. But this is a great female singer-songwriter album, modern style. There is a band that I haven't mentioned yet that maybe I should, and that is a couple of later album by Erasure, A Light at the End of the World, and we have also Nightbird, containing a great single called Breathe. Erasure still, great synth pop band.
I have Nightbird, but it's a burned CD, so I don't have an official one.
Nightbird from 2005, and A Light at the End of the World from 2007. We have two albums with the same person who is a solo. I'm not surprised, Seb, and I take that as a compliment. I've shown Suede many times. Now we have a solo act in different names by Brett Anderson. Here he is with Bernard Butler, known as Tears. Bernard Butler, who also was a member of Suede. Here they reunite in a band of their own called Tears. And this is great British indie pop style. And this is a solo album by Brett Anderson from 2009 called Slow Attack. And it is a really nice, relaxing, slower album by Brett Anderson. And a really great Brett Anderson album. And we have Jamiroquai, a later one from 2005, called Dynamite. Single feels just like a tune that is really great. Still funky, still really amazing jazz soul funk style. Yeah, nice. I wish I could be there, Christopher. We have Moby that I showed a couple of weeks ago. This is Last Night, later on from 2008. And it's also a really good one. Maybe not the best, but it's still a great one. Yeah, Traveling Without Moving is also a really great album, Christopher. I agree with that. And finally, a band that I've shown many times, but I'm not going to show them again because I can't. Because this is the final album by Oasis. Dig Out Your Soul. This is their final album before they disbanded, before the brothers Gallagher had enough of each other, for life, I guess. And this is also a kind of a double album pack because it also contains a CD. But the CD is bonus DVD. Sorry, it contains a DVD. But the DVD is little. It contains the making of a couple of the videos only. But it's a great special edition of Dig Out Your Soul, their final album. It goes out with a bang, in my opinion. So those were the years that, in my opinion, got forgotten, but still actually made some pretty good music. Not in the highest positions of the hit charts, though.
Okay, all right. Well, thank God then Oasis finally disbanded. So, what do you have for us, Jason?
All right, well, I scooped the Fleet Fox, so I've got some other stuff to backfill some of that as well. So this will be my last round. But yeah, Richard, what's the plan after this, man? Are we going to go back to 1 year at a time? I think
it depends on.
I can do that
when because the next chunk is going to be 2010 and
right
forward. So I'm gonna go. I'll go through the releases to see what I have and how many releases. That's what it's going to come down to. I will decide based on how much quantity.
We don't need tons of releases because we can have a pretty good conversation about this, that, and the other thing anyway, right? But or another option too is you could do 2 years at a time, maybe 10, 11.
I have already said that if we're going to go slower when it comes to the 2010s, I can't participate in as much because my amount of records from the 2010 and till today is extremely slim. So the only way I can participate is if we take the entire decade at once. That is the only way I can do it. Because
I can't do that. I got hundreds.
If else I can show 1 or 2 records a year, it's it.
Well, you can make comments on ours, I guess.
Yeah, but it would be fun if I participate in front of the screen showing 2 records and then sit in silence.
I'll have a lot more because with the 2010 and beyond, because I'm going to have Krongben, I'm going to have De Stott, I'm going to have King Gizzard, I'm going to have Car Seat Headrest, I'm going to have a lot more, the bands that I have multiple records of, but at the same time, I need to kind of look at.
The comments are saying, Jürgen, just buy more music, man. Buy more music.
Yeah. With what music? Because music in the it is of course exceptions, but much of the music sucked. So it's not much.
No. There's always more music to discover, my friend. I mean, I love the 80s, but I still look at these records we're showing. I bought all these punk records in the 2000s. You can go jazz.
That would make me happier to see punk.
Well, Jürgen, explore another genre you've never thought of. Like what is experimental music, and go down a rabbit hole. You never know.
Christopher, I know. I heard some punk, and that is maybe not my cup of tea. But
there's some variation
a lot more with the experimental music because I started picking up Coil and Nurse with Wound, and I started listening to Stereo Lab, which they've been around since like the 90s, but I
understand if you want to take it slower. I understand that because you have a whole lot more records than I have. So go ahead, make your choice.
Yeah.
Don't
Hundreds.
It's all going to depend on what's in my catalog, how I decide that I'll divvy up the years. If we do another,
I can say as final to those in the peanut gallery that my interest for the music after 2000 is very, very low. It's been growing a bit now since the past years, but I have not that big interest in music after 2000, unfortunately, because I think it has been not my style at all. It's a lot of reason for that, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists who got all right. I'm just looking at the year 2010, and in January I see one record that I have that was released, which I kind of already talked about today. So yeah, we'll see. We'll just see how it shakes out. So what are you going to close us out with there, Jason?
Okay, yeah. I was going to say for 2010, I probably have like 200 records. I usually average about 100 records each year. So here we go, 2007-ish and stuff. I'm gonna start off with a couple of punk singles. Last round was punk as well, but Acid Reflux EP. Love this 7-inch so much. I got about 3 copies of it. So sometimes when I find something cheap, man, you can find punk 7s for like $2 on Discogs, right? Throw them in a pile, and they're a lot of fun. And this one is jacked with tracks. Oh my god, dude, this has got like 8 songs on a 7-inch. That's a classic punker for you right there. We always say 7-inch is basically the album format for hardcore punk. 2-minute songs. Right. You know, they got songs on here like "Do Your Parents Know You're a Ramone?" "Customers Fuck Off," "Bleed and Destroy." "Oh, good, there's an Applebee's" is one of the songs. This band's coming out of Albany, New York. Then I got this band, The Monitors. I love this 7-inch too. I got 3 copies of this. This is on Goodbye Boozy. Great little label out of Italy. They do a lot of garage rock and punk. This one's got that garage rock punk feel, but with a keyboard. So it's kind of pop punk a little bit, and just a fun little ditty. Don't think they did much after the 2000s. These bands like come and go, right? This is like an era. Right. Then I got Destroy LA, the 2 variants. Look at that variant. Then I'll show a couple of electronic, and then I got 1 hip hop to end with. So on the electronic side, earlier last week's show, I was all about the minimal techno, and a lot of that was the early 2000s and really dropped off after 2005. But this one still kept going from 2005. This is Deadbeat, who is actually, I think, a Montreal artist, Canadian artist, on the Scape label. Very minimalist design, as you can see to the cover, and the music kind of sounds like that, how it looks. Minimal, digital, a little bit dub influenced. This is an electronic record that Stunty would know. This is Last Step, and this is on Planet Moo. So Planet Moo is kind of like the Warp label, UK kind of electronica, IDM, interesting stuff. This one's very electro sounding. It's a double record, but I think it's a single album from 2007. They don't have any other stuff, but it's a very good record if you see that Last Step. And last but not least, a little bit of pop music. But we know that Jorgen does not like this genre of pop music. I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe someday he'll get into a little bit of 50 Cent. 50 Cent, man. Curtis.
You call that pop music? I call it rap music.
Well, rap music is pop, man. This sells for millions of albums and fills up stadiums. This is not the best 50 Cent album, by the way, and it's not an album I would even recommend. But I found it fairly cheap, so I picked it up. It's a full album, executive produced by 50 Cent. By the way, 50 Cent, I think, is acting lately because a lot of hip-hop guys go into acting after a while. But yeah, this doesn't even have, like, the last hit I remember by 50 Cent was Candy Shop, which doesn't seem to be on this album. I think that's on the album before that.
I understand why you call himself 50 Cent. That might be the only thing I think is worth.
Oh, what a burn. 50 Cent getting a burn from Jorgen. Yeah, there it is. That's my late 2000s. Like I said, I got hundreds of records. A lot of the records I have in 2000s are singles. House and techno, DJ, tools. Even though we start switching to digital, I'm still buying a lot of vinyl. Certain places like Berlin still spin a lot of vinyl, a lot of records there.
Yeah, and in back history, I'm finding
Christopher
artists that I'm totally uninterested in their full album release. Right. But there's a couple like songs. If they had a 12-inch, I would be more inclined to buy a 12-inch single as opposed to a 7-inch. But if there was a single released from an album that I liked, then I would get that rather than buy the whole album, because I think the rest of the album is just kind of junk and just doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, there were some good singles, and then I'm also this new label. I've talked about them before. They're called what is it called again? Jazz something.
Christopher.
It's true. 50 Cent was shot up. I think that was his whole story. I think that guy got like shot like 6 times or something. It was insane.
Soul Jazz Records is this label that
Oh yeah, Richard, that is a
yeah,
classic, man. That is a good
yeah,
label, dude.
and
For
just
compilations, wow.
yes, just about
Yeah,
everything that
wow.
they've released has been solid.
Yeah.
So I may just start buying a lot of. I mean, I'll have a section for Peel session recordings, and then a section for Soul Jazz Records.
Yeah, I got a bit of shelf space for soul jazz. You know, they have a really great punk series called Punk 45. They took
Yeah,
all these 80s obscure 45 7-inch singles and put them on album
yeah,
compilation. And there's great stuff by city, you know, even like Cleveland
yeah.
compilation, LA. Yeah.
They have such a deep catalog, and they
Yeah.
include a lot of dance music.
Yep. There's
And
house ones, there's
yeah,
Brazilian funk ones, there's, yeah.
yeah. So that'll be fun. So thank you guys for participating today. That was a good show. We covered a lot,
Yep.
and yeah, only one overlap, which
Only
is
one.
yeah, which was really really good. So that's cool that we've got such a diverse collection to show people. I hope you all out there in the audience enjoyed this as well. So we'll see what happens in the next episode. Look for something that I will post about that. And but as always, please remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.